This is Hannibal back here with the Hannibal TV on YouTube with another UAP slash drone slash UFO news update. Early morning here, December the 18th. So I guess it's officially over a month since the serious drone incursion started because I believe they started November 17th. A new interview with Lou Elizondo, former head of the Pentagon's UFO program, who was also at the most recent congressional hearings. He did an interview. I have to say, if anyone has been watching me for a while, I'm a big fan of Lou Elizondo. I hope to interview him one day. I will say one thing: I could do a hell of a lot better interview with him than this. In my opinion, this interview was an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm sorry to get into a bit of a review of it. He maybe talked for 10 or 15 minutes of this. There was some other people in there that definitely had good things to talk about, including Vinny from Disclosure Team, who I just interviewed recently. But I found that to have Lou Elizondo there, and they seem to spend an exorbitant amount of time on introductions. It's like you have one of the best minds in UFO in this whole industry, and you're going to waste 10 or 15 minutes on introducing people. I don't know. To me, it wasn't a effective use of time. But let me get into the interesting stuff that Lou said. And by the way, Vinny, who was in this from Disclosure Team, I put the link to his interview with me in the description. He had some good stuff to say in this. You can hear him talk in more detail on his channel or in my interview. Lou Elizondo admitted in this for the first time he worked with David Grush on a UAP at Space Force. So on the UAP subject at Space Force. So that was the first time he ever admitted the place where they worked together was Space Force. And that is, you know what's interesting? That he admitted they worked on a UAP together in Space Force. The Chinese drone where the Chinaman, or sorry, not Chinaman, but the Chinese national that was arrested after flying the drone over the Space Force base um, 4 or 5 days ago. It was a Space Force base. Supposedly, they're admitting here that UAPs or at least discussed, but possibly more at in Space Force in that program. So it's interesting that there is a bit of a drone connection to Space Force with the Chinese national getting arrested after filming with his own drone at the California Space Force base 4 or 5 days ago. Then on his way back to China, he gets arrested and he's been indicted now. So here we have Lou admitting that. Here's an excellent point for what they're saying about hobbyists flying. That is hobbyists. It's all hobbyists and commercial craft and all this flying around in the sky in New Jersey, and there's no nefarious intent. Which, by the way, nefarious means criminal or wicked intent. Lou Elizondo brings up a great point here. How can you say it's not nefarious intent if they're flying hobby drones over an Air Force base or a military base in general? And if it's not nefarious intent, how like incompetent does that make the people running these bases look if they can't protect the bases from hobbyists and commercial craft flying over their own base? They'd rather look incompetent, I guess, than admit it could be something else. They mentioned in this, and it wasn't Lou, but one of these guys that was in this discussion, and it's nothing against these other guys. I'm just saying that it didn't seem to be the best use of the time, and I had to take this in 4 or 5 pieces of viewing because it did drag on a bit. But they mentioned in this drones by nature are surveillance pieces of machinery. Good point. And I'll add in they can also be used to carry for the lack of a better word, guns or payloads. Obviously, Mr. Elizondo does not like Sean Kirkpatrick. He said there was a reason why Sean Kirkpatrick only lasted a year as the head of Arrow. Arrow, by the way, still haven't made any statements on the drones, to my knowledge. Strangely enough, even though they're supposed to be involved with researching these unknown type of things. But as Nick Pope told me today, a former British UFO investigator, maybe because they're calling these things drones, the AARO aren't involved in investigating them as much. It's one of the reasons why Lou says the government is not disclosing all that they know about this drone problem is he says it's not in the best interest of any government to present a problem without a solution. So in other words, he doesn't feel that the government, and this actually makes sense because they keep saying they don't know what's going on. So if it is true that they really don't know what the real issue is with the mystery drones, maybe they're not presenting the problem because they don't have a solution and they don't want to say here we have either a foreign threat or it's a threat from somewhere else as far as the mystery drones go, and we don't know how to deal with it because it would make them look bad. As far as the government researchers, such as the AARO, the UAP researchers, and this is another excellent point that Mr. Elizondo made in this, saying that there's no evidence of UAPs, like legitimate UAPs from extraterrestrial sources. Lou brings this up, and keep in mind, he was the head of the Pentagon's UFO program. And I recently read the UFOs and Nukes book by Robert Hastings that's 22 hours and full of declassified documents. And Lou says for them saying they have no idea of any connection to something out of this world, he says there's literally thousands of declassified documents, some of which actually say flying saucers since the 40s at least. So for them saying there's no evidence of anything ET, that is a lie based on the declassified documents. One of the interesting things that one of the guys present in this video, one of the British people, this was filmed in the UK, was an orb video that was shot by one of the friends of one of these British guys that shows an orb that's actually in someone's backyard and casting a shadow behind it, which is interesting. So it's actually a physical thing casting a shadow, and they show a very good shot of it. And it's actually that I use of the screenshot of this video for anyone that wants to take a look at it. And Lou does talk in his book Imminent about strange orbs. I think the ones following him around were green, that were actually entering his home and so forth. He said he couldn't go into too much detail about it in the book for reasons, I guess, from what he's legally able to talk about. But there's something to these orbs, and there's been a lot of orbs. I mean, we're calling everything drones in this, but let's face the facts here. There's drones. There appears to be like possibly police drones as well as the civilian drones. Then there's a bunch of unusual drones, some that possibly look like they're sniffing something flying very low to the ground. Then there's orbs. There's all kinds of weird stuff. Then there's like Christmas tree bulb looking things that are changing color and twirling around. Some things are flashing, some things are showing very little light. So there's a lot of activity going on up there. To finish this off, as far as the Lou Elizondo part, I will say some other drone news after this, but Lou says that these things could be non-human sentience. So non-human, but be like us in some ways as far as sentience. You guys can look up the definition of that, but basically they have the ability to have feelings and so forth. I won't get into the full definition tonight. As far as more from the Congress briefing, Mikey Sherrill, New York congressional representative, did an interview with CNN. This is a classified briefing held today. She said she's not convinced, based on the briefing, that there's no threat at all, but she feels that they're on the right path towards a better solution of the drone issue. She says the communication between agencies in the federal government is not good. She says this drone situation, I mean, it's really been going on for longer than that over Air Force bases, but as far as the condensed situation going on right now in New Jersey, she says she's disappointed that it's taken a month for them to start taking this seriously. And there's still a lot of work to be done assessing the situation. But again, she feels they're confident that there's going to be better communication with further information that's gathered. So that's pretty much. I'll go into some of your questions, but that's pretty much my rundown of my news tonight. Imagine seeing a bunch. Yeah, well, I understand that there's a lot of activity going on up there. And the thing is, I understand what you're saying there. Imagine seeing a bunch of activity in the air. But as the former New York governor or the former New Jersey governor said in an interview today, he's lived in New Jersey all of his life, and there's now more unusual activity than he's ever seen in the skies, including stuff flying very low. A lot of this stuff looks like it's scanning for something. Then there's the orb-like stuff. Then there's a lot of stuff that's getting confused, but it seems like the place where the most condensed activity has been in the country, and who knows how long it's going to keep up or when it's going to stop or if it's going to stop or if it's already stopped. I know some people have seen some stuff tonight, so it hasn't stopped tonight. But there's unusual stuff going on. Why are they having classified congressional hearings? And again, people are uninformed. There was 11 incursions over Picatinny Arsenal base in the past month. You think that's nothing to be worried about? I'm not saying to worry about it. I'm saying there's unusual stuff happening. Decide if you want to worry about it or just keep informing yourself like me. I don't think as far I've heard lots of reports of the drones looking like they're leaving trails in the sky, but the thing is, we haven't seen like any direct evidence of it other than people's videos, which you can edit stuff into videos. If we could see it from a police video, which they're not releasing any official videos of this stuff yet up to this point, which again, Nick Pope and Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor, I talked to both of these people today. And they both, by the way, they're a lot smarter than I am and a lot smarter than most people. Avi Loeb is one of the smartest people in the world. He even believes there's unusual stuff going on in the sky. So I'll actually take a researcher like Abby Loeb's word for it. Hello, Elizabeth. I don't know what the orbs are. I don't know what any of it is. All I know is that we don't have the whole truth yet. And I actually say what you want about Lou Elizondo. I've been following him since he started on this path, since it first started coming out with To the Stars Academy that he was involved with Tom DeLonge, who I won't get into the whole background of To the Stars Academy, but that could be a whole video on itself. But I do believe that Lou is an honest person. And again, if you happen to see this, you should really do an interview with me. Have a great night, everybody. That's an exhausting day of UAP research. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. Nobody can deny that. And because I've actually been actively researching it for hours and hours every day, there's no denying it. And it's not just in the US, it's happening in many places, including Australia, where I have Australian people continuously sending me videos. So I appreciate the viewership from over there.